Good. Good morning. The European Commission President Jacques Santer has rejected the conclusions of a scathing report which led to the resignation of all 20 commissioners. It accused them of losing control and refusing to take responsibility for fraud. Mr. Santer declared himself whiter than white and said they'd all been made scapegoats.
Jacques Santer walked into a crisis news conference to explain the future of the European Commission. Speaking in French, he said the report of corruption and incompetence had given an image of general irresponsibility, and that image was wrong. Santer and the other commissioners will continue in a caretaker role. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister said this was an opportunity for reform.
What we have got to do now is to use this event and the resignation of the whole Commission as an opportunity to drive through root and branch reform in Europe.
EU leaders hold a summit in Berlin a week from now. This issue looks certain to dominate the agenda.
The public inquiry into the deaths of babies at the Bristol Royal Infirmary has begun taking evidence. 29 children died and 4 were left with brain damage after heart surgery. 3 doctors were found guilty of serious professional misconduct.
The long-awaited inquiry began by hearing first from the parents of children who died. It was they who for years have fought for a public inquiry into heart surgery at Bristol. The doctors at the centre of the scandal have since been struck off or suspended. They ignored repeated warnings from colleagues that too many children were dying during surgery. The surgeon supporters claim they've been scapegoats and hope the inquiry will clear them. It's expected to last 18 months, the largest ever into the health service. It'll examine 2,000 operations and hear evidence from 500 parents. The inquiry panel stress it's not a court. Their job is not to apportion blame, but to find out what happened and the lessons for the health service in general.
The Chief Constable of Kent has been appointed to investigate the murder of...
Well, Ed, at the start, longest inquiry ever into the NHS, cameras were allowed into the inquiry chamber, and we should be able to see pictures now of the inquiry team. It's headed up by Professor Ian Kennedy. He's an expert in medical and ethical issues, and he started by saying this is not a trial, not a courtroom, won't be seeking to apportion blame, but instead to find out what happened at the Bristol Royal Infirmary, what went wrong, and what are the lessons for the NHS. Now, the General Medical Council last year looked at the deaths of 29 babies, looked at 53 operations. This is going to be looking at more than 2,000 operations. And for the first time, there'll be video links set up in a public inquiry at Barnstaple, Cardiff and at Taunton to allow parents who can't make the daily journey to Bristol to follow the events. And many of the parents have been here today, and they will begin giving evidence this afternoon.
They're presumably delighted this inquiry is now starting. Have we heard from them at all this morning?
Yes, they say their main concern is to prevent another tragedy like this ever happening again. And their main spokesman, Malcolm Curnow, said he wanted to hear the truth not just from the 2 surgeons involved, but from the NHS as a whole.
We have never been here for retribution or compensation. We're here to find the answers as to why 225 of our children lost their lives. And obviously the surgeons can give very valuable evidence to that, but they are just one small cog in a very large machine, and it is the rest of the machine now that has to answer the questions as well as the surgeons.
Now, Ed, we're going to have evidence here in this rather faceless brown building behind me for the next 9 months before the whole inquiry team then goes off to London and other parts of the country to look at the whole question of paediatric heart surgery around the UK, and it's going to be about 2 years before this inquiry concludes.
Fergus, thank you very much indeed. More than 50 people have been taken to hospital following a chemical spill at an industrial estate in South Wales. Fumes, which are thought to be from some kind of cleaning fluid, spread over a large area of the Swansea Enterprise Zone. In all, 60 people breathed in the fumes. 52 have been taken to hospital.
And 2 doctors have all been by the General Medical Council.
One by one, the parents of the Bristol heart children filed in and took their places. They say they want the truth about why more than 200 children died or were left brain damaged after heart surgery at the Bristol Royal Infirmary. Melissa Clark was 11 months old when she was operated on, but she survived just a few days. Her mother was the first person to give evidence to the inquiry in hearings that will last for up to 2 years.
I want to find out the truth about our daughter I want other people to find out the truth about their children. I want people to know how bad things were at Bristol Royal Infirmary, and I want things in the National Health Service to alter.
Last year, the General Medical Council found 3 Bristol doctors guilty of serious professional misconduct. It discovered surgeons had continued to operate on children despite alarmingly high death rates. The disciplinary hearing looked at 53 operations. Today, the inquiry panel said they would examine more than 2,000 operations at the hospital over a 12-year period. It's the most complex inquiry the NHS has ever seen. Many of the parents believe the full extent of the scandal at Bristol has yet to emerge.
We have never been here for retribution or compensation. We're here to find the answers as to why 225 of our children lost their lives. And obviously the surgeons can give very valuable evidence to that. But they are just one small cog in a very large machine. And it is the rest of the machine now that has to answer the questions as well as the surgeons.
The inquiry will also hear from parents who believe the surgeons involved have been unfairly treated. The evidence will be relayed via video link from Bristol to centres in Cardiff, Barnstaple and Truro to make it easier for the hundreds of families involved to monitor events.
The inquiry team say this is not a court nor is it a trial, so they'll not be seeking to apportion blame. Instead, they'll be trying to discover what happened at Bristol Royal Infirmary and why, and what are the wider lessons for the NHS. Fergus Walsh, BBC News, Bristol.
The guarded optimism at the Kosovo peace talks in Paris isn't matched on the ground. We're fighting